All right, so this is going to serve as my post-Tremblant 7.3 kind of race recap, race experience reflection. I'm going to start from the very beginning of just the travel up, all the logistics, traveling to and from, dealing with the congestion, dealing with, I think it was 3,300 or more athletes and all their friends and families and supporters as well. So it was pretty busy up in Tremblant. And then just go through race morning, all the usual stuff, swim, bike, run. Yeah, so I went up on Saturday. Just circumstance meant I couldn't go up any earlier, so I went up Saturday kind of late morning. My commute's about 2.5 hours, or should have been around 2.5, 2:45. And it was flawless getting there until I hit about Mont-Tremblant, and then just the last stretch into the village of Tremblant and into kind of the transition zone where everything was going on. Took forever. I ended up having to go all the way up to P4, get a shuttle, or actually I rode my bike down because it was Saturday, so I was checking in for athlete check-in, but also dropping my bike off at the same time. So by the time I got all that done, it was around, I want to say 2 o'clock. Athlete check-in was, again, another long lineup, but it was okay. You know, you make your way through. Luckily, I had some friends that met me, took my bike, took my bag, just let me kind of stand in line and wait, and got through that. Went, checked in my bike. All that was straightforward, easy. I got it done right before that thunderstorm and downpour we had for maybe 10-15 minutes, however long that was. So luckily I was able to get my bike at least checked in before it got fully rained on. And then, yeah, I mean, that's more or less it. I didn't really hang around down there. I didn't really go through the expo all that much or look at the merch tent. I just kind of headed back to my accommodation. I just wanted to get settled, get there, and just be done with the day, and so I can kind of start thinking about Sunday morning. So I got to my place. My place was maybe 15-minute drive, again, from transition from the race venue, and a great place. It was called Auberge Le Cosy in La Conception, which is not too far. Great spot, wasn't busy, perfect amount of space. They have a sauna, they have a pool, they have hot tub, they have all kinds of great things. So if you're going up for a more relaxed experience, I'd highly recommend going there. But yeah, so Sunday morning, I woke up, I mean, as you do, I had a crappy sleep, so I was up around like 2 a.m. Just decided to just get out of bed, not try and fight it and just hang out until 3 o'clock or 3:30. So I just got out of bed, started my morning routine, just kind of like re-going over everything, packing my transition bag, making sure I have absolutely everything I need for race morning. Left the accommodation around 5, I thought I was leaving early, expecting to be able to get to there and get one of those kind of parking spots in one of the closer lots. Did not happen. Again, it was packed all the way in. Ended up at a further parking spot. I guess it was P5 I ended up at. Parked there, got on the shuttle with everyone else, and made my way down to transition. Still totally fine. I had more than enough time. So set up my transition zone, easy peasy as it always is. Left transition, started making the walk all the way down to the water. It's not a crazy long walk, but it's not a short walk. It's a bit of a hike, so you know everyone's kind of just moseying on down, slowly kind of wandering over with your stuff, your morning gear bag and your dry clothes bag, and got down there, got pretty much all the way there, and then decided to start putting on my wetsuit. So I put on my bottom half of my wetsuit, and then got into the athlete area, grabbed my last few things that I would need, and just dumped off my morning clothes bag, took one last pee, got my wetsuit, you know, rest of the way on, and made it down to the swim start. And luckily I was able to kind of scoot in the side because I didn't realize people were queuing up so early, but I was in the 37 to 40 minute swim group, and luckily I was able to kind of get in the side instead of going all the way to the back of the line, and hung out there. And even like, you know, the swim start for the age group started at 7:05 a.m. and I felt like I was towards the front, but it still took at least 20 minutes for me to get in the water. So I started at 7:25, and so started the swim. Swim was exactly as expected. You know, I didn't do a practice swim in Lac Tremblant, just the timing didn't allow it. So I had heard it was pretty cold. It was pretty cold. Wetsuits were mandatory, so not just wetsuits optional or but wetsuits were mandatory for this race because the water was pretty chilly. But after like 3-4 minutes, you're not thinking about it anymore, and things either go numb or you adjust to it. Your body temperature warms up with the wetsuit on. So I got into a pretty decent rhythm, and I set my watch for kind of every 200 meters to auto lap, and so it would vibrate, and I would just kind of take a quick peek as I'm kind of swimming at the time, and I was right on about a 2-minute pace all the way out to that first turn buoy, which is around 800 meters. So just 2-minute pace, 2-minute pace, 2 minutes per 100 pace. Around to the first buoy, things got choppy. I don't know if it was because the sun was now in my eyes, but my goggles I couldn't see out of them. I had to stop. I stopped and I just wiped my left eye goggle so that I could kind of see and sight as I was going, and dealt with that the rest of the way. But I was just trying to look for feet. It can get pretty hectic. Kind of, I'm in that kind of bulk of people. Not a fast swimmer, not back of the pack, but kind of in that mid pack where it can get pretty hectic. So just kind of trying to follow feet and rely on some other people now and then to kind of do a bit of the sighting, so I didn't have to like look up and sight. I could just kind of swim and get in a rhythm and follow some feet. But anyways, made my way around. The swim pace did kind of fall off. It would be like, instead of a 2-minute pace, it was kind of 2:05, 2:10 towards the end. And but yeah, I mean, it was pretty uneventful, and you can walk the last. It felt like forever. Like I was starting to swim, and I could see people kind of getting up and walking, and I just kept swimming for at least another 2 minutes. Once I started noticing people were able to stand at that point, but I just felt it was just as easy to keep swimming. I was going just as fast as them walking. And I was going to be on my feet for the rest of the day anyway, so I might as well just kind of swim this thing out. Got out in 39:28, so it's at about a 2:03 pace overall, which, given my training, given my ability, plenty pleased with that. Ran out, took advantage of the wetsuit strippers, and just got my wetsuit taken off, and then I ran to transition. It's a pretty long transition, and running, even though they have the carpet, it does, it's hard on the feet a little bit, the pounding, but ran all the way to transition, ran through transition to my bike. And again, that pavement does, it's not comfortable on the feet, but whatever, you get there, got to my bike. And luckily, I was racked, because I'm AWA, I was racked, I was number 394, so I was racked kind of close-ish to the bike out and bike in, which was nice. And so I just got to my bike, got things transitioned, dried off my feet, put on my socks, put on my shoes, put on my helmet, grabbed my last bit of nutrition, all that good stuff, and got out in I don't know how long my transition was, 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes, something like that, with taking advantage of the wetsuit strippers, the longest run to transition I'm plenty fine with, and was excited to get on the bike and see what I could do. So got on the bike, got out, and it felt pretty good right from the get-go. Like nothing felt bad. I felt like I had my bike legs pretty much right away, which was great. Because right out of the gate, you're kind of, it's a little bit undulating all the way out, and there's some climbs on Mont-Tremblant as you make your way out to the highway, but I felt strong the whole way. And being kind of a mid-pack swimmer, you're passing people a lot. And so I started in that 37. It took me 20 minutes to get into the water, so there were plenty of people ahead of me, and plenty of people that started around me that probably swam through me. And so on the bike, being my strong leg, I'm passing people a lot. And so it felt congested, a lot of the ride felt congested for me. But nevertheless, I made my way out. I felt strong. The entire bike felt strong for me. And I had ridden it four or five times fully, the full lap on Ruby. So I was kind of like mentally, I knew what was where. And Ruby, I had never trained with Ruby before. I'm a Zwift guy. But I trained with Ruby for Tremblant, and now I'm training for Muscle Man using Ruby. And super helpful in the end, to be honest. Like just kind of a general idea of what hills are where, and kind of, different points on the course, and it's super accurate. So that was a big help. And yeah, just got into a rhythm. And my goal was around a 2:30, being ambitious, about a 2:30, 2:35 bike split. And made my way out onto the highway. And it was comfortable. Like we had, I think it was a slight headwind on the way out on the highway, all the way to the turnaround, but it never felt that bad. and just kind of kept my rhythm up, passed people as safely as possible. Times did get very congested. You have to kind of hit the brakes and wait up for an opportunity to pass safely. Especially like on any kind of incline, things just kind of like, come together as they do. And so passing up a hill was a bit of a challenge every now and again, but got through that. And what else? On the bike, my nutrition plan went to a T. I took my gels when I was supposed to take my gels. I took my chews, my beta fuel chews when I was supposed to take those. And I grabbed one random gel from an aid station I was passing through up a hill. I just figured, why not? Grabbed one gel off of that and just hammered it back. And beyond that, I think one other aid station, I grabbed the water and just kind of like rinsed myself off. And other than that, it was all pretty straightforward. Like I was very aggressive on the bike, especially on the uphills. I didn't really worry too much, honestly, about pacing. And this is because leading into this race, I've been dealing with a back issue. And so I really had no idea how my run was going to be, because that's what kind of was the most painful for my back. And it could have been pretty debilitating. It could have been a walk instead of a run. So I kind of just decided that while my back felt good on the bike, I was just going to hammer the bike. So I, maybe a little bit irresponsible, but I took most of the hills kind of out of the saddle as long as I could, and paced them aggressively, not completely recklessly, but aggressively, and then like took the downhills as aggressively as I could. And yeah, and even the last section out Duplessis, like it was hilly as it is. And, we're all kind of just waiting for that final turnaround to be able to come back. Because, on the way out, it's hilly. And then on the way back, there are still some hills on the way back down to transition. But, you're able to carry a lot of speed, because on the way back, there's a lot more downhill. So you're able to carry more speed into those inclines on the way back. And so you just get up and over them a lot quicker. So that was great. Into transition, I ended up, my final time for the bike was 2:29:38, which the Ironman tracker said was 36.7 kilometers an hour, which plenty pleased with. Exceeded my expectations a little bit. Probably had my back been feeling better, I would have paced it maybe a little bit more modestly or cautiously, but it felt fine, and racked my bike in and out of transition pretty quick. And got my shoes on, grabbed all my stuff, and kind of just started walking, putting my my race belt on, getting my watch back on, all that kind of stuff, and then grabbed a tiny bit of somebody was spraying sunscreen on the way out of transition, so took advantage of that. Why not? And then I left transition, and there was some porta potties, and I did have to pee, so I ran to a porta potty super quick, took a pee. It ended up being longer than I expected, but took care of that before the start of the run and got into a rhythm, because I figured before I actually start running, might as well just empty the bladder. So I'm either not thinking about it or trying to pee while running or stopping at a porta potty on the way, because that can just be such a distraction and a frustration. So took care of that right away. And then got into a rhythm and didn't look at my pace. I have K splits on my watch. So the first kilometer, there's some punchy kind of hills. The first 4-ish kilometers, four and a half, 5 kilometers even, there's some punchy hills, and it spikes your heart rate. And so I just figured, just get through the hills, pace, just keep running up them, don't walk anything, just kind of like, just pace up these hills and just take them as they are, to go off of RPE, and just something that's sustainable. So I got through those Ks, and I think like, early on, my first kilometer, because taking into account stopping in the porta potty, was like a 5 something, and then slowly kind of chipped down to like my average pace being in the 450s, 440s. And then once we hit the kind of the trail, I got in this group of like maybe 3 or 4 other guys, and we're running around anywhere between like 415, 425 pace on the way out to the turnaround, which was great. And like some of us would kind of be in the front for a period of time. I preferred to be in the front because on the way out, I don't know, it just felt like if you were closer to the center line of the trail, it was just a little bit more, I don't know if it was more even or what, but it was just easier to run. It felt more comfortable on the feet running more towards the center line of that left lane on the way out. So everything felt incredible. Like 10K in, I still felt really good. 10K, a little bit past 10K is the turnaround. and felt great. And it is a gentle decline, so you got to kind of remind yourself that it's a gentle decline to that 10K turnaround, and then on the trail back, it's a little bit of an incline, so you kind of feel it. RPE goes up, heart rate goes up to kind of maintain the same pace. I didn't maintain the same pace. I did drop off a little bit, and kind of more towards like 435, 440s, 445. And I was just, on the way back, it just becomes this thing of like aid station, hitting every aid station, looking forward to every aid station, slowing down at every aid station. Every aid station, I would grab water, pour it over myself. I would grab electrolyte and hammer it. I would grab ice and put it down the back of my suit, or the front of my suit, and just kind of let it sink into the groin area and kind of cool you off. And just that just became the focus. Just next aid station, water, electrolyte, ice, water, electrolyte, ice. That's all I did. And then it's just, I was trying to do some mental math of like what I needed to do to go under 5 hours, and I wasn't sure exactly. I assumed I started at 7:25 a.m., so that's where I was going off of. So I needed to finish before 12:25 a.m. to get that sub 5 hours. I wasn't exactly sure, but I was kind of trying to do some mental math just to distract myself. And then I was pretty confident that I could get under 5 hours, so I was pleased with that. And I just tried to like look for things to kind of keep me engaged, whether it was like following people, kind of trying to catch up to people up the road, or just thinking about, I'm almost back in town. It's going to get a bit busier again. That should be a nice lift. I'm going to have that long descent back down that we kind of climbed up out of transition. And then I know once you hit the bottom of that, it's just a loop up and around the village. So yeah, I just took that. The downhills were a bit painful. I wasn't sure. I was trying to figure out how best to approach them because your legs are screaming, that pounding, extra pounding on the quads. And by this time, the balls of my feet were starting to kind of feel like I was having hot spots, like blistery kind of feeling. So like being up on the toes, that extra sliding, that extra pressure, I was actually on the downhill almost consciously trying to heel strike to kind of take that away. And my calves were screaming. So anyways, got to the bottom of those hills, still in one piece, and it really, people picked up. You could hear the music from the finish line, and just like you get this shot of adrenaline of being like, I am almost done this damn thing. And there's about a kilometer left, and the pace just picked up. I think I was running sub 4 minute Ks for about 200 meters, and then you kind of round this corner as you climb up. So you do like kind of an up and around, and then back down to the finish line. And it gets a bit quiet, and before you get to enjoy that last downhill through the village, you have to climb to the top of the village. So another bit more of climbing, and it got a bit quiet, and you're like, okay, you don't blow up just now, there's still a tiny bit of work left to do. But you get to the top of that, you round that corner, and then the downhill through the village is unreal. Like the number of people that line it feels like it's forever, and you soak it up. I was running pretty quick, almost because I was too afraid to kind of slow up and my legs tie up. But that long run down is twisty turny through the village, and is just so many people on either side of it. You feel like a rock star no matter whether you're finishing first or you're the last finisher across. Like it was pretty incredible. So took advantage of that, soaked it up, gave some high fives to some kids, and just ran across the finish line. And like I was lucky that, and I was a little bit cognizant of it approaching the finish line, but I was lucky enough that like there was not that many people around me. So the guy finishing ahead of me was plenty ahead of me. The guy behind me was plenty behind me. So like I kind of had my own mini moment crossing the finish line. It was really cool. And in the end I went 4:53 something. My run, I averaged 4:39 per kilometer in the end. It was a 1:39 something. And 4:53 in the end, which is my new half Ironman PB of about a minute. I went about a minute slower many years ago in a local race that no longer exists in Peterborough, Ontario. And I did this race in Tremblant, 2014. The bike was slightly different. I don't know if the run was slightly different, but I went 5:04 back then. So to go 11 minutes faster 12 years later is pretty cool. And it bodes well for Muscle Man. So super pleased with the event. It's crazy. There's so many athletes. There's, like I said, 3,300 athletes. It feels busy. Luckily, it's one loop on the bike, one loop on the run, so you're not really getting that congested, but it did feel busy. The logistics felt busy, getting in and out of the village, and then like being at P5 and getting back up there. You don't want to ride those hills again just to get back to your parking, so you wait for the shuttle, and it seemed to take forever. And then everyone's got their bike, so it's super awkward. But outside of all that, incredible experience. Will I go back to Tremblant? Maybe. Likely not for the next few years, but it was a great experience. It's a great challenge, a great course, an honest course. There's just enough climbing on the bike to make it a super, super challenging course. You get to get in and out of the saddle on the bike, which is nice. You're not just in that TT position forever, just hammering on the flat. You're in and out of the saddle, you're descending, you're climbing. So, and then the run is super, super kind of engaging as well. You get nice shade on the run, which is another nice thing. It's shaded along that trail for the most part. The sun comes over top, but it's pretty closed in. You get some nice shade, and it felt nice because the forecast was only for like, I want to say like a high of 20 or something, but it definitely felt a lot warmer on the day. And yeah, so I'm super pleased with how that went. Good learning also for Muscleman. I have Muscleman now in, less than 3 weeks now, 3 weeks exactly between the two races. Muscleman in Geneva, New York, 70.3. It's a little more than half the elevation on the bike, so it's not quite as hilly on the bike, and it's definitely not as hilly on the run. And the transition zone is like right next to the lake. So tentative goal for Muscleman, if all goes well, about sub 450 I think is in the cards. I don't know how much I'm going to improve my swim between now and then, but I think I can go faster on the bike and faster on the run. And just tidying up transitions, having a shorter transition, I think I can find those 4-ish minutes pretty easily. Muscleman, there's possibility that can be a wetsuit optional or a swim where, even if it's wetsuit optional, I don't think I'm going for a world slot, so I might just wear my wetsuit anyways if it's not too hot. But that could, if you don't wear a wetsuit, it could slow you down. And then just, the heat of the day can also slow you down if it's a really hot day. Tremblant, we had pretty favorable conditions. And then wind on the bike is another X factor I hear. It could be quite windy out at Muscleman. So we'll see. That's it. So it's Muscleman in 3 weeks, and we're going to try and go sub 449.